Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us for the Sew on the Go mini-series. My name is Leah, and I am your moderator. Now, Craftsy and Alizo have teamed up to give you a bundle of portable projects to take with you as you travel, and you'll want to make sure to download the free patterns by clicking the link in the description. Now, each day this week, a new instructor is streaming live to provide step-by-step demonstrations of fun projects to keep you organized. Now, if you have any questions during the event, please leave your comments in the blue chat box below or in the chat on Facebook and YouTube. I'll keep an eye on the comments during the event and ask questions throughout when we get to some stopping points in the project. Now, I also have some very exciting news and a way for you to use that chat box right now. Every day this week, we are giving away the Alizo Mini Project Iron to one lucky winner. To enter, you need to leave a comment in the chat on craftsy.com, Facebook, or YouTube, and let us know how it is that you would use the Alizo Mini Project Iron for your chance to win. So once again, just drop a comment in the chat, say hello, and let us know exactly how you would use that Mini Project Iron, and you'll be entered. And we'll be collecting all of those submissions during the live stream today, and we will announce a winner at random by the end of today's event. So make sure to stick around all the way to the end of today's event and get your name into the chat box as soon as possible if you want to enter. Now, if you don't win today, there are 4 more chances. So make sure to watch our live stream events all week, and they all start at 2 p.m. Central Time. Now that I've gone through all of that, it is time to welcome our amazing instructor today. Her name is Sue O'Very Pruitt, and she is the owner of Suki Sews, and she is a sewing, serger, machine embroidery, and garment pattern designer. Hello and welcome, Sue. Thank you so much for being here. I'd love for you to start us off by telling us a little bit about yourself and then jump into what we'll be making today.
Oh, well, thank you so much, Leah, for having me here. I am really excited. I have been in the sewing world for my entire career. Right out of college, I started working at Busch Gardens, which is a theme park here in Florida, doing costume design. And I worked right after that into the home sewing industry, teaching and selling sewing machines. And that's when I really found my love of teaching. So I've been doing that for the past for a very long time. And then when my daughter was born, she's 12, but when she was born, I decided I wanted to make this a full-time thing, and that's when I started my business. So I've been in business for about 12 years now.
Perfect. Oh, that's really exciting to hear. We're so lucky to have you with us for today's project, which I'm going to have you run a little introduction for so people know what they're getting into today.
Yeah, so if you do the overhead camera, that's where my project is, but I am doing the cord wrangler. Should I go over to that side and show that?
Sure. Let us
Okay.
see what we're heading towards.
Carnival, like a craft fair or something like that. And then you can make them for all of your irons or for your sewing machine. So if you're on the go taking your sewing machine to classes, this would be ideal to wrap your sewing machine cord up too. So it's got lots of great uses.
Okay, perfect. Now I am seeing in the comments that people are struggling with sound. And I know if that's you and you dropped a comment in about the sound, go ahead and keep an eye on the chat box. I know we do have a team behind the scenes. They're always magical. And they might be able to help you figure out anything that you might try to get that sound back for yourself. And we'll keep an eye on that too on our end. And I think just in case, I think we missed a couple things, couple details for you, Sue. You don't have to go back over to your table just yet, but if you could give us a brief recap of what you did for those of them out there that missed it. What's our
Oh,
project today?
sure. Well, I don't have the cord wranglers over there, but the idea of it is that it slips onto your cord and then it stays there all the time. And then when you're using it, when you're using the iron, then it would just kind of hang down on the ground. And when you're ready to wrap it all up, you would just wrap the cord kind of figure eight style and wrap the cord wrangler around it. And then there's a button at the end that secures it all in place. What I was mentioning is that the mini iron specifically, it's a tiny iron, but it's got like the cord of a grown-up iron. And so it's a really nice thick cord. And so it can kind of get all over the place. And that's what inspired this project, was that I did need something to kind of hold it all together. So you can use this cord for irons, but also your sewing machine when you're traveling.
Okay, with that said, it looks like the sound is coming through here now. We'll see how this goes, and we transfer back over as we get into the project. So Sue's going to head back over to that overhead view and get us started. Again, keep your comments coming in the chat box for that chance to get the Oliso iron entered in that drawing. And also, if you have questions, I know the chat box is busy with those submissions. I'm going to try to pull your questions and hold them until we have a break in the action to ask them to Sue.
Okay. All right. Sounds good. Well, I'm going to go to the overhead then, and I'll see you there.
All right.
And just, if you could let me know how the sound is now that I'm over here. Does that sound still good? And if so, I'll go ahead and get started.
All right. So far, I think I can still hear you. Let's see how this goes. Thank you, Sue.
Yes. Okay, well, if you're ready for me to get started, I will do that. The very first thing I wanted to point out is that Craftsy has put together this wonderful set of instructions that everyone can print off. And the very first section would be the materials, and then going right into all the supplies. And then once you have all your goodies ready, we go ahead and start making the project. And so I'm going to be referencing my instructions so that way I don't miss anything. But I wanted to start with let's go ahead. I'm actually going to take my cord wrangler and I'm going to put it down. So you can actually see right here, you can see the little elastic. We're going to slip that all the way to the ground. So I do have my iron set up with steam. And the first thing I wanted to show was preparing your material. The Mary Ellen's Best Press is probably one of my favorite little go-to ironing supplies. And the reason I like it is because it's a spray starch alternative. So it's going to give the material some body without making it too crispy and without leaving that weird kind of white residue that regular traditional spray starch does. So what I wanted to show, though, was when you use Mary Ellen's Best Press, the first thing that you're going to want to do is give it a good shake. Now, it does come in different fragrances, or if you are sensitive to smells, you can also get like a traditional unscented. So you're going to shake it up really good, and then you are going to spray your material on the wrong side. Then you give it a couple of seconds, then you flip it to the right side, and then you would give it a good press. And this way your iron is never actually touching the liquid. And if it does, it's okay, but it is recommended that you press it using this method. So there we go. There's one, and now we've got the other. Now the materials that will be needed for your cord wrangler project, you're going to need a front and a back, which we've just pressed. And we're going to put our best press over here. And then you're also going to need a piece of foam. And there's all kinds of different foam out there. I do prefer the by Annie Soft and Stable. And so that's the material I'm using today. And so then you're also going to need, let me grab my other materials here. You're also going to need 2 traditional rubber band hair ties, but you're going to want the kind that don't have the metal in them. So they've got these. I mean, you could even get these at the dollar store now. And you know, it's so funny. I stole a couple from my daughter at first, and I have long hair, but my daughter had really pretty ones. I was like, when did you get these? So they have them in all different colors too. And then and you'll need two of those rubber bands. And then the last thing you'll need is a shank button. And the one I used is about a 5/8 inch, but it could be probably up to an inch, but no smaller than maybe a half inch. So that's the other thing you'll need. And the last would be a piece of paper bag fusible web. And this is what's going to kind of hold our opening closed while we do some top stitching. So we're going to put those things aside for now. Okay, so any questions so far, Leah?
No, but lots of cool ideas for how people would use that Aliso iron. So, reminder,
Yes.
if you're just joining us, let us know what you would use the iron for a chance to be entered to win one, and we'll announce that winner at the end. But also, this will be the point if you do have some questions for Sue, start to drop those into the question box, and we'll get to as many as possible.
Yes, absolutely. I'm just going to move my cord out of the way here. All right, so the next thing I wanted to share with everyone is just the process of pinning and cutting. Now, we are going to be placing our front and back, and it doesn't really matter which one, but I am deeming this my front, and this will be my back, and I am placing them right sides together. I like to cut how I'm going to be sewing. And the way that we're going to be sewing is actually with the foam on the top, and then we'll have our front and back below. And so I always like to cut the way that I'm going to sew. Hopefully that makes sense. And then from there, we would just take our pattern piece that is part of the download, and we'll place it in the center, and then we're just going to pin and cut.
And now, Sue, while you're doing that, Carol does want to know, what is the thickness of the foam that you're using?
Say that one more time.
What is the thickness of the foam?
Oh, I'm sorry, I can't hear.
Oh my. Carol is asking about the thickness of the foam that you are using.
Good question. The thickness, and here I can actually measure it right here, it's about 1/8 of an inch foam. I know that almost every quilt type shop in the country sells this brand. Pellon sells a brand, or excuse me, a piece of product like this. So does Bosel Foam and Fiber. They sell a foam. And then this one is the Bianni Soft and Stable. So I like this one. I've used them all. This is just kind of my go-to. I can sew through it real easily. But I've used them all, and they'll all do good. If you don't have foam, you could also maybe use a piece of fleece if you have like scraps of fleece left over. So that's kind of a good little tip. And then once you've got everything pinned in place, we're going to go ahead and cut around it. And I am using I just released my own line of scissors, and they're gold, and they have the little Suki Sews. It's kind of my color type scissors. So
Sue, I'm going to interrupt you just briefly. We lost you for a moment.
Okay.
And I'm looking at your overhead camera, and I'm not sure that we're seeing your activity. I think we might be frozen there on your overhead.
Okay.
If it's possible for you to refresh that for a moment, maybe we'll be able to get a little more action going. I think it's going to matter a bit.
Sure, yes, definitely. I will go back and take a look.
And then we'll see if we can get that shot back. I can see it pulling in here. And it looks like we've got it. So that's going to be perfect. Thank you so much, Sue.
Yes, definitely. And is the sound still okay?
It seems to be that way.
Is the sound still okay?
I can hear you. I think we're doing okay on the sound. I'll see if it's holding. All right, I think we can go. Or now we lost the other camera. There we are.
You guys don't see my overhead camera?
I can see, yes, I can see you moving there. All right, we definitely can hear you. But we seem to have some freezing issues.
Okay, I'm trying once again. Can you all hear me?
It does look like everyone can hear you. I can hear you, and we can hear you. I think our viewers can hear you as well. Now I can see your hands moving here. Yes.
Oh,
Now
yes.
we're an okay from our behind the scenes. I think we're good. Perfect. It looks like it's working.
Should I just hold things up in front of my face then instead?
I think right now we can go with the two cameras, and I'll let you know if we need to adjust on the fly. Let me see. I think it might help if we try having you go ahead and hold that up for us on the face camera that we have and see if we can use that.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's going to be worth trying here.
We'll just use my face then?
Yes, and then we'll see what we can get into the screen.
Okay. Let me just reposition a few things real quick and
Perfect. While you're doing that, I'll just give a reminder to everybody that's watching. If you would like to be entered in the giveaway, make sure that you give us your information, your name, and then also what you would do with that Olizo mini project iron. That's going to be what you'll need to get you entered into the random drawing that we'll announce towards the end here. And I am keeping an eye out for questions that you have for Sue. There aren't that many yet so far, but I am keeping an eye to see if anybody is curious about what we're actually doing here with our project as we get started. So Sue, if you're ready, I'll pass it back to you.
I am. And I'm so sorry. I like to say technology is great when it works. So my apologies. We're working from, I think there might be a storm coming here in Florida, but that's okay because I can teach from my face. You'll see that. So what I was mentioning was the pattern will be a part of the instructions and everybody can download those instructions, get the pattern and cut it. And then the tip I was giving is that I like to cut the way that I'm going to sew, meaning that underneath my pattern would be my foam and then my front and back right sides together. So all I got to do is unpin and do my sewing. So I always like to do that if I can. And then now I've got those pieces. I've got my front, back, and my foam all together sandwiched. And then the next thing on the cord wrangler, and I'm gonna sneak down on the ground and grab it so I can show everybody. But on the cord wrangler, there are two rubber bands, and they're really just hair ties on either end of it. So that's what we're going to insert now. And then the trick on getting them in there is just taking a piece of regular Scotch tape and wrapping it around the center and then doing a little zigzag inside. And that's really it. And then if you have some tweezers to get rid of that tape, you can. The truth is it's all going to be tucked inside, so it won't ever get seen. It's okay. But then we're going to just remove the tape. And I'm going to go ahead and stitch my other. So Leah, while I'm stitching that, if there's any questions or comments, I'm going to be over here stitching for just a moment.
All right, we do have a question from Amanda. Amanda is wondering if batting can be used in place of the foam.
Yeah, I think it could. It may not give it as much. Sometimes maybe like two thinner layers of batting. Sometimes batting, the idea of batting is that it gives warmth, and so it's not really tightly woven. Whereas like think of fleece, like a fleece scarf is more tightly woven. Batting's kind of just push whooshed in. But yeah, maybe two layers of batting, or even flannel would work too.
All right, we're getting a lot of comments here about how people would use this. We have some quilters, we have some sewers, and we do have some travelers, which I know that mini size is perfect for travelers as well. So Sue, while you're sewing, another reminder, I think that there's a little bit of confusion about information to enter the drawing. We just need your name, especially if you have a username that might just be a long sling of numbers. If you just want to put your name in the comment with what you're using the iron for, what your idea would be for the iron, that's all that we need. And if you've already dropped something into the chat box, you don't have to do it again. One will be good. Lots of Aliso lovers here. And then I'll let Sue finish up her sewing and keep an eye out if any other questions roll in.
All right. And I'm going to actually show what I'm doing here in a moment, and then I can just show it on screen here. But yeah, I've been using Aliso for a very long time, and their customer service is fantastic too. But I got the little mini about a year and a half ago, and I like the size of it, especially if someone's working in a small space and they don't have a lot of area, or it's really great if someone doesn't have a permanent sewing space. It's portable, and it's great for taking it to sewing classes. But the next step is we have all of our pieces attached, but inside you'll notice that I have sandwiched in the little pieces of elastic, one on that side and one on that side. And all I did was secure them with some Wonder Clips. So I'm just going to open this up to show. So right there. And then we have that on both sides. And now we're just going to set the sewing machine up with a straight stitch, and we're going to sew, I believe, and I'm actually going to look at my instructions to make sure, but I believe we are going to sew, yes, we're going to sew a 1/4 of an inch seam allowance. And we're going to sew a 1/4 of an inch all the way around, but we are going to leave a little bit of an opening. So I'm going to go ahead and sew that right now.
Now, a couple questions when you're heading over to sew.
Yeah.
Lynn wants to know if you're stitching on tape and then removing it.
The tape was inside, and it was to hold the little pieces of elastic kind of smushed together. And then I zigzagged over the tape, so you can kind of see that. And then I did remove the tape. And then if you have a pair of like angled tweezers like this, that seemed to help the best. And then we're going to just take, I'll show here. This is the backing, and there's the foam. And we're going to just take our little piece, and right where the stitching is, we kind of put the stitching at the top. And then remember, it's going to be a 1/4 of an inch seam allowance. And then we're just using our clips to hold everything in place. And now we're going to be stitching a 1/4 of an inch seam allowance from all the way around to the other side. And we are going to leave an opening. And when you leave an opening, you just want to make sure the opening is big enough for your fingers to get in, but small enough where it's not so large. I think it ends up being about 3 inches. So I'm going to stitch that now. And you're going to sew it with the foam side facing up.
All right, I have a question about the foam when you're done with your stitching, Sue.
Okay. I could probably hear you, Leah, if you want to say the question.
Perfect. It's from Christine. Christine is asking if the foam is going to stick on the presser foot.
That is a good question. And I can say that if Christine has used other foam in the past, she might have discovered that sometimes it can be a little sticky, or it's kind of like got a texture to it, almost like gritty. But that's why I like the By Annie Soft and Stable. It's super smooth.
And then Annette is curious what size needle you have in your machine that you're using.
Oh, very good. And of course, all this will be listed in the instructions. And the size, I will show you in just a moment. I can actually show I wanted to mention too, for those of you who remember the days of wearing slips, raise your hand. But the material that was made of slips was kind of a tricot material. And this is really soft, and it kind of reminds me of that. So that's why, to answer her question about the getting stuck, it's so smooth and soft. And then the needle question, I'm using Schmetz Universal size 8012 needles. Just a good basic needle. All right, and then I'm going to clip my threads here. So all I did was sew around, leaving that opening, 1/4 of an inch all the way around. And now we're going to turn it right sides out. And I do have a little device that I use for that. It's called the Easy Point and Turner. Maybe somebody has used one of these in the past. But all I'm going to do is slip one end of it into the opening. I'm going to grab hold of it, and then it kind of like clamps down. And then boom, just like that, I can turn it out real easy. So I'm going to go to the other side, clamp it down, and then I'm going to do the same thing. Turn it right side out. And then you could actually just give the elastic a little tug. But then, and I really wish you could see the iron for this, but we'll have to use our imaginations, because I like a bamboo point turner. The reason I like a bamboo point turner is because it's a natural fiber, and you can take steam and steam over the iron, like and infuse the wood of the bamboo point turner with the steam, and immediately you've got about maybe 10 seconds of pushing it right side out, where the steam is actually infused into the bamboo point turner. And I'll tell you, that is a really great tip if you're wanting to get nice crisp corners. So what you do, and you don't do it in the sky like I'm doing. You do it over your ironing board. You take your bamboo point turner, and then, I mean, my little Aliso mini project iron does have steam if you keep it at the highest setting, and then there's steam on either side, and you just shh, and then immediately take your point turner and go into your points, wherever it is you're wanting to poke out, and it'll do a really nice job. So that's just a little tip I wanted to share. And we're just going to go through all of the corners, and then we're going to give it one little press. So here's my outside. And honestly, it doesn't matter, front or back. Front or back doesn't really matter. But I did put, this is supposed to be my front. But I already have one that's this, so maybe I'll make this my front. The next step is to close the opening, and we're going to give it a good press. So I'm going to head over and do that real quick. So if there's any questions, let me know, Leah.
There are. We have a first one here from Sylvia, and Sylvia is wondering if you backstitched over the elastics when you were doing your stitching just a moment ago.
I did not. And if they wanted to, they could. And in the instructions too, and I would say, you'll get all the little extra details in there. But if you are anxious about going over the rubber band with your hand or with your sewing machine, you could always just use your hand wheel. But I didn't go backstitch over top of it, and I feel like it secured it really good. But if you feel more comfortable, you can. However, I did backstitch at the front and the beginning and the end of my stitching that I went all the way around, just to kind of secure that opening.
Okay, we have a question about the iron as well.
Yes.
This one comes from Carol. Is the iron an auto shutoff?
It is not. To my knowledge, it is not. I'd have to try and remember, but no, because they might be thinking of the larger Oliso iron that does have I think it's a 15-minute shutoff, but don't quote me on that.
Okay.
But if they want to, we can get an answer, like an official answer later. Perhaps we could post it on Craftsy's Instagram or something.
Okay, I have one more question before I can send you off to get started here. This is a specific one about the hair ties from Lorianne. Yeah. It looks like the hair ties are half in and half out of the project. so that
Hmm.
when you turn it right side out, half of the hair ties are basically inside. Is that correct?
That is correct. Yes. And I want to I want to see if I can show a picture. I'm going to show the instructions so they can kind of see that. But this is where I smushed them in the center and wrapped them with a piece of tape. And then they're going to look like this. Now, let's say that there's no need to cut the hair tie inside. I would think like the woman who had asked about backstitching. I think if we were cutting those, then yeah, we might want to backstitch it. But there's no reason that the hair tie cannot permanently live inside the cord wrangler. I think it's going to just make it, really like, look at I'm pulling on it, but it's really durable because the rest of the hair tie is inside. But let's just say that you want to make one of these today and you do not have a hair tie, you could absolutely use elastic. There'd be no reason. But for the elastic, I think I might backstitch on that. But this one's okay.
All right. Well, that's all I have for now. So you could move on to what our
Okay.
next step is.
Very good. Well, the next step is to basically close that opening. And now the way that the final one has been completed and finished is I do a top stitch around the whole thing. But if you wanted to do a decorative stitch, that would be a nice time to do that. If you don't want any stitching, then you could just hand stitch it closed. But that's what I'm going to do now is just do a top stitch all the way around. And once I top stitch it, it's going to secure that close. I am going to, I'm sure all of your viewers have seen Wonder clips, but there are these little clips here. I'm going to show them here. There are these little clips that hold your material closed without using a straight pin. And they're really great for this kind of a thing where I don't want to pin it closed. So anyways, there's that. In the instructions, and I'm looking for my piece. Oh, here. No. Well, in the instructions, if you also didn't want to top stitch it, you could also use a little piece of fusible web. That's another option. But top stitching, it works just great. So I'm going to head over and top stitch now.
Okay, perfect. I'm going to take a moment while Sue's doing that to just remind everybody we are getting not quite at the end of our time together today, but we're starting to edge a little closer to the second half of our time together. So if you haven't already and you are interested in being entered into our random drawing for who's going to get that Aliso Mini Project Iron, go ahead and let us know your name and what it is that you would use that Project Iron for, because we will be drawing that name by random before the end of this live session. So you'll be able to know before you turn your computer off if you have won today. Sue is going to continue bringing us through the rest of this project, but there's still a little bit of time to be considered for that random drawing. And once again, I'm keeping an eye on your questions as they come in. Not a lot so far. I know I've got one to give to Sue when she is finished sewing, but if you have any yourself, go ahead and two questions for Sue.
All right, cool. Well, those questions, I'm curious. So, whoever does have the Oliso mini iron specifically, or another, what colors do they have? Because they come in gobs of colors. What are some of the colors they have?
Yes, indeed. You can let us know that too. I love a multicolored product.
Or what colors do they want if they win? All right, we're almost done here.
Perfect.
I do want to say, as I'm stitching over the top stitching, I am going a little slower over where that elastic is inside. And I'll show you in a moment. All right. So, yes, ma'am, what are the questions?
All right. First of all, there is a lot of interest in those two products that you showcased just a while ago. So if you could bring back your bamboo item that you were using and give us another brief overview, and then we'll move on to the second item as well.
Yeah, okay, so a bamboo point turner, and first I would say check your local shop, because you may find one there. A traditional bamboo, or excuse me, I'll show you my like a traditional point turner is going to work, of course, because it's the idea is that it pokes through and or pokes your material to get a nice crisp. But the reason I prefer a bamboo point turner is because it's a natural porous substance, an item. And what you can do is you take your bamboo point turner, you lay it on your pressing surface, and then you steam over the bamboo point turner. The moisture infuses into the bamboo, and you have about 10 to 15 seconds where that moisture is still in. So now your bamboo point turner is a little hot. You're not pressing right on top of it. You're just kind of like steaming over it. So you infuse the bamboo with the moisture and then a little bit of the heat, but then it's just the coolest thing. If you have a bamboo point turner at home, just try it. It's the coolest thing. And then once you start feeding and going through the corners and the points, it does such a great job. The other thing, Leah, that I did not mention, I forgot, is that when you are doing what I just said, you've got it infused and it's inside. You can also press directly over it because it's wood. You're not gonna hurt your iron. You're not gonna hurt the fabric. It may leave if you're working with a thin fabric, it may leave an indent, but otherwise you're not going to hurt it. Whereas a plastic point turner would melt, right? So that's something that's kind of cool. Oh, I love a bamboo point turner. They're so cool.
All right. We actually have more product questions, but I'm going to stop at 2 for now so that you can move
Okay.
on to the next part of our project. But before you do, when you were turning out the project,
Yes.
big fans of that particular piece of equipment. So again, if you could let us know what you were using there.
I will. And this is actually a notion that it was originally invented in the 70s, and it was designed to point collars. And the patent ran out in the late, kind of like the mid 90s, and nobody was making them anymore, and nobody could find them. And so about 3 years ago, I approached a company and we manufactured them. So we took over all the rights to it. We didn't just remake it, we improved it. So this one is called the Easy Point and Turner. And the things that I love about our version or my version is that it has actually like a little point right there. And then inside is a little groove so that the point clicks into the groove and then it makes turning real easy. Some of the other things are it has nice soft handles. I know it's a little hard to see, but it has nice soft handles and they're big so that for all size hands can fit into there real easily. I do want to say though, Leah, I've been asked, we've been manufacturing this for about 3 years, and there's going to be a new one coming out that's going to be out probably in the late fall. So it's gold, and it kind of goes with our new colors, but you can kind of see the difference. But they both work the same for something like this, but this was really great for turning like purse straps right side out too. So anyways, it's called the Easy Point and Turner. They can go find on my website. I have a link there, or whatever. I can send them places. You can buy it pretty much everywhere now. So that's that.
All right, fantastic. I'll hold the other few questions that we have for another break and let you continue on.
All right. Well, we're moving right along. The next step is we've got everything finished. I am going to press it really quick just to set my seam. And now we're ready to add the button. And the thing I wanted to mention with hand sewing, is we are just sewing a regular traditional shank button. So it's got, the little lift in the back. I don't know if you can see that. And we're going to pretty much just mark the center of our little cord wrangler. And I'm just marking it with just like a regular marking pen. And you want to mark whatever is going to be your outside. So I've decided that this is going to be my outside since I already have one that looks like this. And we're going to just fold it in half widthwise. And then we're going to fold it in half height-wise. So it looks something like that. And then we're just going to mark it. And that's going to be the placement for our button. Now, when I sew buttons, and I'm not sure that you'll be able to even see our little mark, but you have to trust me. The mark is there. And we're going to be sewing through all the layers. And when I do sew by hand, Now I'm using a Metroshine's thread. It's cotton thread, and I'm using 4 strands. So what I do is I take 2 strands, I go through the eye of the needle, and then tie a knot. So then I have a total of 4 strands going through, and all that does is make hand sewing twice as fast. So, that's just my little trick, though. And then the other thing is I've fallen in love with a thread conditioner called So Fine. And then this one is actually like I guess kind of like a specialty one from my friend from Wisecraft, Blair. But the cool thing is it's a beeswax, so it conditions your thread, makes it easier to hand sew, but it has a really nice smell, and they come in different fragrances. So, anyways, I'm just gonna take my thread and I put my finger on top of the thread and I pull it, and I do that twice, and that's it. And then I put the lid back on. It smells so good. It comes in different fragrances. There's like green tea, and there's cotton candy and espresso and whatever. There's all kinds of them. Now we're going to just hand sew the button on. That's really the last step. So now I'm going to put the needle through all the layers. So I've got the back of it, and then there's the front. There's my button, and we're just going to hand stitch that on. So are there any other questions?
There are a few. I'll start with the button since that's what you're doing right now.
Okay.
Sylvia wants to know, does it have to be a shank button?
I don't think so. I think the shank button just makes it easier to maybe get the loop around. But Sylvia, I haven't done it with a flat button, so you do it and then you let me know. I don't see why it shouldn't, though. It should be fine still.
Perfect. A couple more questions here. A little reminder from me. So, a few people have asked this. Yes, you can come back and watch this later. So, even after we're done live, you will have access to come back and view this later at the link. But Fern has a question about scissors we'll get to. Fran would like to revisit. I know you talked a little about this earlier, but why you selected foam for this project instead of batting?
If you've ever made a purse or something that needs structure out of foam, it will give you the body while you're holding it on your shoulder, but the second you set it down, it will collapse. It's just the nature of the material. Think of it like if we're asking a quilt to stand up by itself, that would kind of be an impossible request. But with foam, it would do that. Like if I had batting, it would just collapse. Now, this doesn't need to be structured so much that it stands up by itself. However, I felt like I used the foam because wrapping the cord, especially the cord of the Oliso Mini project iron or the regular iron, I feel like the cord, it's heavy duty. It's not a joke. It's not a clown cord. It's like a grown up cord. And so it's really thick. And as I was wrapping it around, immediately I sensed I need foam because it's going to give it structure. And then the last reason is I feel like batting might, as you're wrapping it, it might do this. It might warp in the center. Whereas when I wrap this around the cord, you see how it still stays nice and straight. Whereas the foam, I just felt like it might kind of buckle. But can you do it? Sure. I think you might. We mentioned earlier, Leah, that I think you might want to use at least 2 layers. However, I think if you don't have foam, I would rather see you use a fleece because that might have a little bit more woven structure to it. But I'm excited to see how everybody puts what they put inside because there's no wrong way. This is just the way it worked for me. So,
All right, fantastic. We have more questions about what you've been using.
okay.
First, Fern would love to know what scissors you are using, and Katie would like to know where to buy them. So if you could talk about your scissors for a moment, that would be fantastic.
So I actually just released my own set of scissors. There are 5 pieces in the set, but the ones that I use today are my favorite for cutting small projects like this, especially through lots of layers. And you can kind of see them. They're right here. They are called the 5.5-inch all-purpose craft scissors. And just imagine your fabric shears are usually 8 inches, and they're a little heavier, and they cut through what you need. But because they're so long, it's sometimes difficult to control the direction, especially if you're going around small curves. So anyways, that's why I like these, because they give you the same oomph and punch of a full-size fabric shear, but shorter, and they're littler. So they're called the 5.5-inch all-purpose craft scissors. So I've used those, and the other ones I used today were my little easy snips. And these have a hook underneath. Can you see the hook? And then it snips down. So the idea is that you can pull threads up and clip it, or they make really great just cutting your threads next to your sewing machine. And these are designed for right or left-handed, because you're holding them like this and you're cutting from the outside in, as opposed to scissors, you cut from the inside out. And then the last pair of tools that I used today were the little bent angled tweezers. And I wish you could see them better, and I have a video that shows how I use all these, but I think everybody should have these. I mean, they're great for all kinds of things. Getting lint out of your sewing machine, pulling threads that might be difficult, because they have that little bent angle. They're not like traditional tweezers that are just, if you can't get it from this way, it doesn't work. These, they can get right into tiny little areas. So those are the tools that I've been using. And you can get all of this from my website, sukisews.com.
Okay, perfect. And again, a few questions on this. Quite a few people are loving that thread conditioner. Where to find that?
Okay, so the company, and I'm pulling out all of the ones I have, because I've got a bunch of them. My friend had hers private labeled, but the company it's actually a Canadian company, and it's called So Fine. So if you want to look at that, that's the company. The one I used today was the Hygie, and they all have a different fragrance. But my friend, you can buy hers on her website. It's Wisecraft. I think it's wisecraft.com. And hers, I like hers. I drank a lot of tea, so I liked this one here. It has a real just fresh and clean. And then there's Earl Grey. It literally smells like tea. And then the last one is Rainfall. But the company is called So Fine. So you can go to their website, and they have dozens of fragrances. Yeah. And it's nice because the thread conditioner part of it makes hand sewing easier. So if anyone has arthritis or carpal tunnel, and believe it or not, I've had surgery on both my wrists for different things. So anything that's like tiny areas, it's painful for me. So that makes hand sewing much easier, because the thread goes through really nice. It's great.
All right, I think we have time for 2 more questions before I will announce our winner for today's live event. So let's go back to Ruth. Ruth is going to take a couple steps back. Ruth is asking if you can explain again about getting 4 layers of thread as a cheat. Didn't quite get it on the first go round.
Sure. Okay. So, and it's hard, I'm sorry, Ruth. It's hard for you to even see this. My top camera didn't work today, so I apologize. But let me see if I can I'm going to show it here. Nope. Okay, so there's 2 strands of thread right here. I've just taken one strand, and I have found the center, and then I take that loop, and that is what goes through the eye of the needle. So imagine that this is the eye of the needle. I go through there, and now I have 4 threads going through my project or my button. And then I tie a knot at the end of it. And then I do the thread conditioning. And I'm telling you, it's such a time saver. Leah, can I show the end of the really quick? I just want to show. So yes. When I'm done, I tied a knot, right? And then I put it through the thread conditioner. I sewed my button on. And then at the very end, I tied a knot. And then I tied a second knot. So here's knot number 1. Here's knot number 2. And what that does, and I'm going to grab this is where those little easy snips come in real handy. Now I'm going to go in between knot number 1 and knot number 2. And of course, I'm doing this looking at the camera here. Hold on. There we go. And now when I clip that and my thread's done, I'm already knotted, but I've also got a knot for the next time. So now my hand sewing needle is ready to sew. I can go right to the next thing. So that's another I learned that back in my old costume days when we were sewing lots of buttons on backstage. So hopefully that answers the question about the hand sewing.
Oh yes, thank you so much for going back to that. That was really helpful. Our last question is coming in from someone viewing on Facebook. Hello, hello. The question is, have you used Craft Fuse 808 or 809 before? That's what this viewer uses for their wallets and wristlet bags.
Ooh, craft fuse. Is that if it's the stuff that's like almost stiffer, um, like if it's the same stuff, then yes. But if it's like a fusible web, then I haven't used that particular brand. But I need to get it. I need now. Now I want it. Now, thank you. Now I'm going to go shopping.
We have at least one person in the comment section that gives it a thumbs up for stability. So if anyone
Awesome.
else likes it out there, you can go ahead and drop a comment about it into the comment box as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
Without
Please try it and let us know.
exactly. Well, I don't have any more questions. So what I'd like to do first, Sue, if you would like to wrap up any final thoughts for the project before we
Okay.
announce our winner, I'm going to hand it over to you.
I will. And then what I was going to do is I'm going to go under the table. So count to 5. I'll be right back.
Sue, everybody's really appreciative of how you've rolled with the punches of the technical difficulties.
Oh, I think we've all become really forgiving in this past year, right?
Yes, indeed.
So thank you for being patient. I would like to say that I would love if people are on social media. If I'm allowed to say, come follow me as well at Suki Sews. It's Suki Sews everywhere, and YouTube. I have a lot of videos that cover things like the needle threading and stuff like that. But so we're all done. We're ready to wrap this thing up. And all you do is you take, now remember, there was 2 elastic. There's one on one side, one on the other. And then the button in the center. Super easy. And we're going to just put the one cord around, or excuse me, one piece of elastic around the cord, and it lives there. It's there forever and ever. And then now you would just wrap your cord kind of a figure 8 style. And when you're all finished, you would just take this piece of elastic, kind of put it in the center, and then we're going to wrangle those cords. And when you get to the very end, we just take the other piece of, the little elastic tie, wrap it around the button, and we're done. So pretty fun, fast.
And you answered a final question that came in as to why there were 2 pieces of elastic. That is why. That's how you can use the project.
Yes, that's how you keep it. You keep it from your, I don't know if anyone else has dogs or cats in their sewing room, but I know my dog saw the cord wrangler on the ground, and animals think that if it's on the ground, it belongs to them. So I saw him batting it around, but it couldn't go anywhere because it was attached to the iron. So, so yeah, it stays where you want.
All right, we have had a couple questions about where to find you, so I'm so glad that you answered that for everybody. But I'd also like to draw everybody's attention to the chat box. There is a link that our fabulous team behind the scenes did put to Sue's website, and that is spelled Sookie, Sookie, Sews, SEWS.com. So that's where you can find Sue. And of course, that does bring us to the end of our project today, which means I am announcing our winner. So thank you to all of you. Remember, this is only day 1 of 5, but today our lucky winner of our mini project iron from Olizo is Becky Deer. So Becky, congratulations. Very excited for you to get your hands on this iron. I know our team will be reaching out to you to make sure they get the information they need to get your project iron to you. So again, Becky Deer, congratulations. You are the new owner of an Olizo project iron, mini project
Yay,
iron.
congratulations.
And you can be using it for your next project before you know it. All right, let's get into our final little bit of housekeeping here before we go and I finish up and send you off. Sue, do you have any final thoughts that you want to send all of our viewers off today?
Well, I really thank you all for stopping in and seeing this project. And like Leah said, there will be a video, you'll be able to watch this later. I think we're going to go ahead and, put a little something together too on YouTube, but please just follow me on social media and join in on the fun I have. I did want to say I've been a Craftsy instructor. My Craftsy class was in 2014 and it was in the hoop projects. It was in the hoop gifts. And being a Craftsy instructor has always been one of my most proudest accomplishments. So thank you for having me here, ladies. I really appreciate being invited back. And everyone just have a creative day. It's so nice having you all here.
Yes, indeed. Well, it was so fantastic to have you, Sue. And I would like to remind everybody to join us tomorrow for our Sew on the Go mini series. Tomorrow we'll be streaming live with our sewing instructor, Emily Steffen. And again, that starts at 2 p.m. Central Time. Emily is providing a live tutorial on how to make an easy drawstring pouch. And you can download the materials list and the free pattern right now using the link in the description before tomorrow's event. You can also find the entire mini-series schedule in the video description. So until then, happy crafting, and we will see you tomorrow.